Welcome to my channel, The King Leeway. My name is King, and today I'm going to talk about 5 things I dislike about Korean society. And before I cover the 5 points, please hit the like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for future notifications. So, here we go, and let's start with point number 1. Why I dislike Korean society. So number 1 is the hierarchy of age. So age hierarchy. Now, the problem is not the fact that we should respect our elders. Not a problem with that, That's a given. That shouldn't be something that's forced upon. We respect our elders and help our elders. But the problem I have with it is this. Just because somebody is 1 year older than me, I have to be his dongsang. I have to call the guy hyung for the older brother. All these formalities, or it gives them the right to bully me, and that's what usually happens. Is just because someone's older, it's always used in the wrong way. It turns out abusive most of the time. And I'm sorry, I just can't get with that program, So I usually don't tell people my age here in Korea for that reason, because of the age hierarchy. I am not down with that. So my attitude is this: if you're 60 years old, you're cool. You bring a lot of value when we talk. Cool. If you're even 20 years old and we talk and you bring a lot of value and we have mutual respect for each other, I'm down with that program, because there's no conditions in that situation. So we're having a good time to, build a relationship that way. So that's one of the reasons I don't like is the age hierarchy. I don't play with it. I don't deal with it. If someone starts trying to punk me, we're going to have problems. No. So you just come respectfully. So just because I look like everyone here in Korea, don't assume all Koreans are from Korea. We have a good amount that are overseas Koreans like myself. So that is point number 1 why I dislike the society part of Korea. Now, number 2, the workplace, the employment. Yeah, this is the problem. The places want us to give 5,000% loyalty, but they can't give us 100% loyalty. If you're sick, in America, if we're sick, we have sick days. We just say, hey, we're calling in sick. In Korea, they don't care if you're sick. They're like, you need to get a doctor's note. You need to do this. Even if you're so weak to even go to the hospital, you need to go to the doctor right away. But that's not the problem. We're just so weak we can't go. And they're like, no. And then they're going to threaten to dock your pay. And, just the employment culture is just, hell. That's why we call it the term hell chosan. So that's another issue with the, the society, the workplace here. It's crap most of the times. It's mostly just sometimes could be seriously abusive. I mean, they don't do it as bad as you see in the K-dramas where the employee slaps around the underling, But, it happens from time to time, and the work culture is crap. You could even feel it sometimes when I sometimes go and sub into Hagwons and, sometimes help friends out here in Korea, and I could feel the temperature. Like, I feel like jumping out of the freaking building. So that's one of the reasons, number 2 point, where I don't like parts of Korean society. Okay, now the next part is number 3. And I'm going to have to explain this because this could be, the point even in America and around the world. I call this the crazy psychic mentality. And you're like, well, that could be around the world. Yes, you're right. It could be around the world. So the crazy psychic mentality, and I'm going to give you an example. I met this one guy who I met in the Philippines. He's an American who's an online teacher, and he worked in Gangnam. And he said this to me one time. He says, yeah, I got a job at Gangnam. I asked the director, like, what do I do? And quote, she said, if I have to tell you anything, and if you have to ask that, you don't belong here. What are you doing here? So stuff like that, they expect you to just know everything. So sometimes when I even go work at, private hog ones, sometimes I'll just look around, do it myself because I've taught for so many years. I even taught in the States. So, it's just psychic. I just go and do it. They expect you to just know everything and do everything. There's no training, no help. There's no, trying to, help the person below to get them on top. There's none of that. I don't feel that way generally. I'm saying there's a few places here in Korea that does that, but it's a rarity. So it's just like, you got to be psychic and just do it. It's like, sometimes don't even bother asking. So that's what I mean. And it's kind of like more on steroids. We have that issue around the world and in America, but sometimes in Korea, it's on steroids for it. Okay, so that's number 3. Number 4, social formalities. This drives me nuts. Quick example. I was on Facebook in the Korean friends group. Korean guy in the city where my uncle lives. I was like, cool. Maybe, I might get to message him, shed some light. So he talked about, it's cold. I'm going to Loteria, which is a hamburger franchise place. I said, Loteria, go get some soup. And he says, they don't have soup in Loteria. And as a joke, I'm like, hey, ask them to add that on the menu so you can have both. And he goes, you want me to get a menu? Of course, it went right over his head because he's not a native speaker like I am. And I go, no, I'm just playing. It's cool. Let it go. It's cool. Don't worry about it. And then he got with his little social formalities. This is what Koreans sometimes do. He goes, well, we're not close enough friends to make that joke. I'm like, you moron. I have mostly Western friends here in Korea. They understand that, but I guess you didn't. So be done with it. But then he says, in Korean culture, we don't. I'm like, dude, don't school me on Korean culture. I grew up in Korean culture in the United States because my parents tried to beat that into me. I was surrounded by Koreans because I live in Los Angeles. So we got tons of Koreans living in LA. It's probably the biggest one next to Atlanta, Georgia, New Jersey, Virginia, et cetera, because Koreans are in all the big cities in America, like we weren't exposed to it. So it's just like so many social formalities. Like, for example, another example is a friend of mine goes, yeah, you want to come to my gathering? I'm like, sure. And he goes, okay, the guy wants to know your name, your family name, your blood type. I said, oh, do you want me to take a piss in a urine cup and give him my urine sample too? I'm just like, no, forget it. Screw that. I ain't down with that. So I just said, no, just go ahead. But when I brought the Korean guy to my social setting with foreigners, it was no problem, So that's one of the things that, annoys me. I don't usually go to the social gatherings, for just strictly Koreans because of those conditions. I don't do conditions really well. And number 5, okay, we have judgment. Around the world, it's prevalent around the world, but in Korea, I call it extreme judgment on steroids. And even the local Koreans know this. They just won't say it. But this society is so judgmental. Everyone's not everyone, but there's people trying to keep up with the Kims, just like in America, we're keeping up with the Joneses. So it's just like, extreme judgment, like if you're not one of us. So, that's why these days, like, no one really bothers me. I don't dress like in a nice suit. I dress a little poor for certain reasons because I don't really care what anyone thinks about me. But this society, there's just so much extreme judgment. And that's one of the things that's annoying here in Korea. Now, regards to Korean culture, I love Korean culture. I love the food. I love the infrastructure. I love the public transportation, the hiking for what it offers, the entertainment. I love the Korean culture. But when it comes to these 5 societal norms, I am not for it because to me, this is the way I see it. I just feel like, it doesn't empower people. It demoralizes people. People get treated like crap. And I'm not saying America's better because we have a lot of those problems in America. But I just feel what these 5 norms in Korea is it's ridiculous, And I just feel it stresses out people more than help them, bring them up, empower them. And that's what all I'm trying to say is what I would like is for these social norms to kind of change, where we empower the people here and, not be so stressed out about crap. So that's pretty much what I'm saying. So if anybody enjoyed any of this content, please hit that like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video.